Welcome back, everyone. So let's get started with building out Crown Clothing. To begin with, we're going to scaffold out and set up our project using Create React App, which you really should be using 90% of the time. The only time where you don't want that is when you really want the customizability that comes with Webpack when you actually want to scaffold a project from scratch. Most of the time, though, you're not going to want that because you'll have to do a lot of those optimizations yourself. And Create React App is literally a team that's dedicated to figuring that out from tons and tons of different large enterprise projects that are pushing React's boundaries. Generally speaking as well, when it comes to setting up your own custom Webpack or setting up a custom Babel, you can pretty much just eject those files and still get the benefit of a lot of the default scaffolding setup that you get with Create React App as well. So generally speaking, I would say most of the time, always use Create React App to set up your projects. And to do that again, we're just going to run npx, which is just this helper that brings down the library and then installs our project and then gets rid of Create React App so it doesn't take up more memory than it needs to. So you're going to do npx create react app and then the name of your project, which I'm going to name mine Crown Clothing. You can name yours whatever you want. You may or may not get this prompt that's going to ask you if you want to install Create React App locally. Just say yes, and then you just wait for this to finish. Okay, so everything is installed now, and what we're going to do is just cd into our project. And let's open it up so that we can get rid of some of the files that have been generated for us that we don't need. So as we saw before, we'll get generated this app.js. And primarily what we don't want is we don't want everything here inside of our app. Most of this is not really necessary for us. Perhaps we'll keep the div, but let's just make our own div for now. And inside of this div, let's just also say, hello world. So at least we know our application is running. Oh, sorry. This auto tag closer is doing a lot of funky stuff right now. As a result, we also don't need the logo. We also don't need the CSS. Really, we just need our app. And I'm going to change this over to a arrow function just because I'm much more familiar with ES6. And this is it. This is all we need our app to be for now. Inside of app CSS, we don't really need any of this either. And for the remainder of our project, we're primarily going to write actually in a variation of CSS known as Sass, which is stylish or sassy CSS. And it's just an easier, more composable way of writing your CSS. In fact, once we learn that Sass writing style of CSS, we're going to migrate over to a JavaScript CSS library. But we'll discuss all of that later. Right now, don't worry too much about it. We can keep the index CSS. We can also change it later. For now, we can keep it. There's not much significance to it. And then finally, inside of index.js here, we have everything that we need. We can keep all this. Everything here is good. Primarily speaking now, our project is pretty much set up. So now let's just save everything and start up our application just to make sure that everything is working as expected. In the terminal, I'm going to run yarn start. This might take a little bit of time to boot up depending on your computer. And automatically it should take you to localhost 3000. Here we see our hello world, so we know our application is working as we expect. What we want to do now is we want to start setting up the basic outline of our application. So I kind of want to generate these 5 different category cards per se, let's call it that. So let's think about what this component might look like. We know that there will be an outer container that is going to hold these 5 different cards. And in each of these cards themselves, we have what looks to be another container. So this could be another div. Inside of this, there's an image. There is yet another container. And then inside is 2 different text fields. So let's just build that. So coming back to our application, instead, I'm going to generate one outer div. And just so that we can be clear for ourselves, let's also add class names on these that tell us what these different components are. So let's start with class name on this outer div. And I'll call this the categories container. because that's pretty much what this is. And then inside, we have these 5 different divs. So I'm going to create one placeholder for now. And this one, I'm going to call it the category container, because that's really what it is. It contains all the content in our category. Inside, we have an image. And for now, this doesn't have a source. So let's actually comment it out just to use it as a placeholder so we know that there is an image eventually. And then within this image, there is yet another container that is going to hold the 2 titles that we have. So this one, I want to call this the category body container. And then inside of here, let's say there's an H2 with hats as one of the texts. And then there is also a paragraph tag. And this one will say shop now. So we know that there are 5 of these. So let's copy this and just paste this 5 different times. And now that we've pasted this in, let's see what we have. We have hats, jackets, sneakers, women's, and men's. So let's say hats, jackets, sneakers, women's, and men's. Let's save this. And let's go back to our application and see what we have. Let's refresh. And there we see it. We have our hats, we have our jackets, we have our sneakers, we have our women's, and we have our men's. So this kind of gives us our layout. We haven't applied any styling to this yet, which we will do in the next video. But you can see how it's pretty much just the exact same way we were starting with our Monsters Rolodex. At this point, really, that's all it is. You're going to start your project arguably the same way you start any project. You just want to start working from the outside in. But now that we have our project set up, let's start actually styling this and installing in the next video a tool that will help us write easier CSS. I'll see you in the next lesson.